So I'm doing a video today, something I haven't done in, I don't know, a long time. And technically I just don't do. I typically would like write um, this, but one, I don't have access to my computer or my blog anymore. And so writing means I have to write on my phone and I just don't feel like doing that. So I just decided that it'd be easier and more personable for me to just basically do a little video. I don't know how long this is going to be, but I'm hopeful that people will like view it. But realistically, I don't care as much, as long as some people can see just kind of my thoughts, and it's just something I just wanted to put out there. Normally, again, I just write this as a Facebook status, but I realized that it was going to be a little bit longer than I wanted anything to be, so I was like, I'll just freaking post a video, and that's okay. So Tuesday, if you've looked at my Facebook since that time, you will know that I have had just, God was glorified this week, okay? He was glorified in my life this week. And so I just had awesome conversations, just awesome, just him showing out. And I'm just filled with joy. In the midst of filling with joy, in the midst of just having awesome conversations, a topic was brought up in a discussion with people who were not black, white, people, white Christians. One thing they basically were kind of bringing up was the question of why a lot of people are focusing on the past right now. And so, with this is of course, they probably have. I've never seen people initiate a conversation about in the context of what we're dealing with right now, and in this time period where it's just so much racial tension and just hurt, pain, and it is very targeted and pointed and very felt throughout the nation, and very expressed throughout the world. Um, I never had anybody like bring up the conversation in a way where I was offended. Anything about race. It's very difficult for somebody who is not of that race to engage in a conversation with me, especially because I'm very passionate about those things. So for this particular couple, you can tell it's all God centered because I was okay with them asking it, even though I just met them. And I didn't get offended in the way that they said it. And they also, you could tell they're thinking about how to engage in this conversation. But the conversation, they had clear opinions, but they also didn't say anything offensive. And I really appreciated it. It was beautiful. It was just a beautiful day. And so, the midst of them having this conversation, they asked the question, why are we focusing so much on the past? And, you know, another time, God was active was because my first response was not because it's still present, it's not past anymore. I didn't go in like I could have, and like I have in my mind, or I have on my blog, or I have, on someone's comments. I didn't go in like I could have because I didn't need to. I needed to think. I needed to stop and truly think about the way they were asking the question, where they were coming from, who was asking the question, my relationship to that person, and be aware of my own feelings about it. In that one instance, I had to shut up and listen, and basically listen before I spoke. And when I did speak, the only thing I could respond was with, there's a lot of hurt. And there was a thought that came to my mind almost immediately upon saying that, because it is the hurt, or what ended up being the thought, the expectation of being hurt, that is truly triggering or triggered or resulted in what we're dealing with right now, what we have dealt with for years, and why we are focusing on the past, because that past shows a pattern of behaviors that leads to the expectation of hurt. And what I realized in that conversation, in that moment, that day, was that expecting to be hurt is a form of fear. Whether I expect for you to hurt me psychologically, I expect you to hurt me physically, I expect you to disrespect me. There's expectations of hurt, and we can sugarcoat it, we can reword it any way we want to, but realistically, that's fear. I'm afraid that I'm going to be hurt by you. I'm afraid that you will not treat me the way I feel like I need to be treated. I'm afraid that this relationship or this interaction is in no way going to be beneficial to me or to anyone, or I'm afraid that you're not going to be receptive to me. And so I'm thinking of it in the context, if I'm a police officer, I'm afraid of this Black person because my understanding is, or based off of how they're responding to me, they don't respect me. They don't fear me. They have no respect for my authority, and whatever else that ends up being, whether it's true or not. Why is that is the question that nobody seems to want to ask. A lot of people are very much like the laws need to change and da 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 da, and our police officers definitely need to be more culturally competent, just more aware of who they're dealing with. And there's so much we can say about that. But realistically, Black people have an expectation or a fear of police. So fear, as we all are used to, we know there's fight or flight in fear. So if I'm afraid of you, I think they're expecting us to. They're not understanding where the responses are coming from. If I'm afraid of you, there's fight or flight, and I think in rape culture, in I guess for those, I won't say in rape culture, but for those of us who seek to dispel the rape culture myths of our society, there's fight, flight, or freeze. And so in the response to the police are literally expecting you to freeze. They're not expecting you to run when you're afraid, if you're afraid of them. They're not expecting you to fight them if you're afraid of them, even though those are the two first things we are aware of when somebody is afraid. Not when they're angry, not if they're afraid, they're going to have those two responses. I'm afraid to get beat by my mom. I'm probably going to fight or flight. I'm going to run away. However, realistically, when there is a reverential fear, there is the expectation of freezing, which also can be considered submitting. And sadly, based off of history, Black people aren't going to submit to the police, not based off of history. We submit to our moms because we respect them enough to know that they don't deserve, or they don't, we just have a relationship with them that is built off of more trust. So if I submit to you, I trust in some capacity that you're not going to kill me, that you're not going to completely disrespect me, that even though I know I did something wrong and you're going to beat me right now, I pretty much probably deserved it. We don't have that relationship with police. We don't have that relationship with those who enforce the law in the US. That is not the relationship of African Americans or minorities, rather, especially African Americans and those of Latino or Hispanic cultures. We don't have a relationship with police. We don't have, our response to fear is the stereotypical fight or flight, but for some reason, police officers are really expecting us to submit when our culture has not shown us that we're going to submit. There are plenty of people who would submit to the police. I'm one of them. I'm sorry. When I'm afraid, I'm more likely the deer in headlights. I'm going to be like, I've never been pulled over by the police, though. I've never had those really negative experiences with police. They have come into my home and done exactly what I expected them to do. And they have done it in a respectful way where I felt safe. They have been in my community and interacted with my community outside of it being an emergency. And I felt like they cared. And that's my relationship with police officers. And what they're not understanding is those types of perceptions are what's needed in the Black community. You don't come in here trying to regulate as a police officer when you don't even know this culture. And then that's the reality. Like, the people that we respect more are those people who we feel care. And how do you show you care? Not by enforcing the law, only enforcing the law. We don't love our parents just because they only beat us when we got in trouble. We love them because they're there along the way and supporting us. And so as police officers, yeah, that may be a secondary role. It may be something you expected. But the reality is, when you go into minority, poor cultures, there's an expectation that you're involved in, if there's a party, a block party, if there is civic league meetings, whatever's going on, that you're there in a positive way. And so people don't understand that how much that how important that is. And what's funny is that it's not at all how I wanted to talk about it. This is going to be another situation altogether. But that's the reality here. This is what we're dealing with here. People don't understand that what's triggered this cycle is fear. And the reason why I had to, the epiphany that came from that was the realization that it was fear. And not just expectation of hurt, but that expectation of hurt is fear. And realizing that fear does not come from the Lord. And because God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. And so when I feel fear, I know that's not of God. And so for some reason, we think that it's natural to feel fear. And the reality is, it may be natural to feel fear, but it's natural because we live in a world where the devil has reign. That this is his land, and he's reigned over us for so long, and he hits us where we're vulnerable, and we know this. We know that that's how he operates. He looks for those vulnerable parts, and so for those of us who've had negative experiences with African Americans, or no experience with African Americans, or those who have negative experience with police officers, or no experience with police officers, he can implement slowly by planting seeds of fear into all of us. And currently, we see it on the news where we're constantly seeing ourselves being attacked as African Americans, that we're not safe. And that fear that we have has now triggered us to act unruly in some ways, or just completely going hard. I mean, and I love it. I love seeing us be so active and care, but it dies down. So some of it ends up being truly triggered by just the desire to have this unrest within our community. And I'm not saying that there's not reason for us to be concerned. And I'm not saying that there is not a reason for things to change. I'm saying that be mindful that the enemy is real, and he's active, and he is picking on us, and he's loving every second of us being angry. He's loving every second of us truly instilling fear in one another and being afraid and living in that, and expecting it. We expect to be afraid to the point where that's how much mind control he has over us. And that's what I realized. I realized that clearly that makes the most sense. That makes, like, we question this all the time. We're just so worried about why are we living like this? Why is this such an issue? Because the enemy wants it to be an issue. This is not of God. This is not of God. If this was of God, we wouldn't feel like powerless in this situation. Okay, we would feel love for the individuals that were slain, and we'd feel more love for the police, and we wouldn't feel so confused about what the heck is going on, because he gives us a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. And I felt like it was so necessary to share that today, because I just feel like this world, it's this world. Keep fighting the good fight, but just be mindful of who we're fighting, and that this is so much deeper than anything we could ever fight with a simple with a sit-in or a lay-in or a die-in or petitions. Not saying to stop doing those. I'm saying that it's so much deeper than that, and that those of us who are followers of Christ have the power to defeat this. And it's in us, and all we have to do is just lay in the word and pray and fast and make sure that we are using our weapons of warfare, because this has been from the very beginning of America. This has been sitting here, this fear, and it's cyclical. And when we get to a space where we're finally feeling good, then this crap happens and puts that fear back in us, and that's the devil. That's all the devil will do. And so just being mindful of what we're supposed to be doing in this season, and being mindful of who really has the power here, and who do you want to have power, because God's got the victory in this. And so when you give it over to him, we know that he's won it, and we know that he will deliver us. And it doesn't have to be for us. It can be for our kids, because that's who we're afraid for. It can be for our communities. It can be for it can be for ourselves. And he'll do it, and I just think if we can come together and just pray for our nations and pray for our children and pray for our minds and control and paying for understanding and rebuke the fear. We have the power to rebuke it. Rebuke that fear that has led to such chaos in our communities and such hurt. Such hurt. And I just wanted to say that. I had to say it. I had to say it.